Hello humans, I am the Black Cat and welcome to Weird Wednesday. Today's mystery takes us to Hopkinsville in Christian County, Kentucky in the United States. On the 21st of August in 1955, Alma Sutton, a local farmer, and Billy Ray Taylor, a carnival worker who was visiting the Sutton family with his family, rushed to the Hopkinsville police station at about 11 p.m. They arrived in two cars, both of which were filled with adults and children, both the families basically. The police noticed that all of the people were very distressed. Alma and Billy Ray explained to the police that they needed help because their farm was being attacked. When asked to explain, they told the following story. They claimed, at around 7 p.m, one of the men went outside to get a bucket of water. While he was outside, he witnessed a spaceship land behind some trees at the back of the house. He claimed that there was no explosion or sound of a crash as he was expecting. Instead, there was the sound of hissing. He returned to the house, and a short time later they saw little men approaching the house. They described the men as being around 2 to 3 feet tall, with small bodies, little legs, long arms, and large hands that were out of proportion to their bodies, large eyes and pointed ears. They were apparently wearing some kind of metal plates. Terrified, the two men grabbed their guns. They claimed they saw one of the little men pressing its face against a window, peering in at them, so they shot at it, and it disappeared. The two men went outside to see if they killed it, but as Billy Ray, who was in the lead, opened the door to step out, a large hand reached down from above the door and attempted to grab his hair. It didn't manage to grab hold of him, however, and they ran out and saw another creature in a tree watching them. There was also another on the roof, presumably the one that tried to grab Billy Ray. So Alma and Billy Ray started blasting, shooting at the strange attackers. However, no matter how many they shot at, none of them seemed to get hit. They would just disappear into the darkness. This battle would go on for the next 4 hours, until they saw they had a chance to escape. As soon as an opportunity came, the families all piled into their cars and they drove straight to the police station. Sheriff Russell Greenwell and several other officers decided to go to the farm to make sure they hadn't killed anyone. The families, still shook up, decided not to return with police, but instead waited until the police had gone to see what was happening. Because the local sheriff and his officers were communicating over radio, this brought the attention of several other officers from neighbouring areas. By the time they were investigating the house, there were up to 25 police officers at the scene, all wanting to get a look at the strange little men. However, when the police arrived at the farmhouse, it was quiet. There was no sign of any invading force. They couldn't find any tracks leading to the house or any evidence of a spaceship having landed on the ground. They did, however, find several bullet holes around the property. They noted a bullet hole in a window, presumably the first shot at the creature looking in. Also a bullet hole in the door. Apparently the only interesting thing that happened was when one officer accidentally stepped on a cat's tail. Thankfully they didn't shoot the cat. At approximately 2 a.m, they returned to the station and informed the families that they didn't find anything and there was no sign of these creatures. So the families returned to the farm and all was quiet. However, the next morning, police decided to return to the farm once the sun had risen to get a better look at the damage. But when they arrived, they found the families were not there. They asked a neighbour where the family was, and the neighbour told the police that the families claimed that after they had returned to the house at around 3:30 a.m, the creatures also returned. So the families decided to just get out of there. Once the event was reported to the local newspaper, the story would spread like wildfire. Then, as you would expect, other witnesses came out with their own stories. One such story came from a group of local teenagers from Lincoln High School who claimed to see the goblins in an athletic field. The teens soon started throwing rocks at the creatures and they apparently, quote, lopped off into the darkness. As the story spread, however, people would go to the farm in an attempt to see the site of the attack. It became such a problem for the Sutton family that they decided to move away. So what happened? Apparently, the families weren't interested in money, and this event was actually more of a problem for them. So I don't think it was a hoax. because what would they get out of it? According to police, they seemed genuinely terrified. From what I can find, it seems skeptics and ufologists agree that this was probably a case of misidentification. In their book, Hauntings, Homeopathy, and the Hopkinsville Goblins, Using Pseudoscience to Teach Scientific Thinking, psychologists Rodney Schmaltz and Scott Lilienfeld, probably completely mispronounced those, suggested that what they actually saw were owls, specifically great horned owls. They also suggested that the two families were probably drunk. Honestly, that kinda annoys me. They think that just because they were country folk that they must be stupid and drunk. I mean, they stated as fact in their book that it was a fact that they were owls, but you can't really state anything as fact without having been there. The police officers who were there at the time and spoke with the families directly stated that they weren't drunk and there was no alcohol involved. But an academic who has no relation to the event at all is going to say that they were drunk. Do you see what I'm saying? Also, the assumption that a farmer doesn't know what an owl looks like. I mean, they describe them as having arms and legs. I don't know of many owls that have arms. They also didn't mention flying or feathers, apparently. I mean, like I said, I wasn't there. I don't know what they saw. I don't know if they were hallucinating or if they really were being attacked. I just think it's kind of insulting to assume that they didn't know any better. Another suggestion was that they were test flight monkeys used in rocket experiments that had crashed in the area. Honestly, I couldn't find a lot on that suggestion, so it was just a little blurb here and there. Interestingly, the story of the Hopkinsville Goblins went on to influence popular culture for many years to come. This was the event that gave us the term Little Green Men that has become synonymous with aliens ever since. The 80s movie Critters, a movie that I really liked without knowing the inspiration, was apparently inspired by this event. But most surprisingly of all is that the Hopkinsville Goblins inspired the creation of a new Pokemon. Apparently the Pokemon named Sableye was modelled on the alleged goblins, and in Cali, a yearly festival is held known as the Little Green Men Day Festival in honour of this strange event. In the end, do I believe the story? Honestly, I don't know. The families didn't seem to want anything out of it except for help. The police who investigated it at the time says they weren't drunk. Could they have used some other kind of substance that caused them all to hallucinate to the point of shooting at nothing? But if that's the case, would they all hallucinate the same thing? Whatever the case may be, they certainly believed it. But anyway, that's all the time I have for this mystery. What are your thoughts? True? Hoax? Misidentification? Or hallucination? Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!